Welcome to Discovery! Roll the intro, please.
Hordes of fallen masters, echoes in the deep. Chaos, blood and fury, destruction unleashed. Fire back, no mercy, oblivion awaits. Discovery, 2325 awaits.
Welcome back to another episode. We have a solid week of new releases, from crushing heaviness to bleak black metal. It's all here in this week's Discovery. We've also got Sleep Token and Behemoth that just dropped their brand new albums. You're tuned into the May 11th, 2025 edition of Discovery, and trust me, there's plenty worth digging into. Before we dive in, drop your favorite discoveries from the past week in the comments below. I want to know what hits you the fucking hardest. Alright, let's get on to it. So, to kick off this week's Discovery, we're heading to the US with a band called Slizard. Strange name, and honestly a pretty strange album too. They dropped their sophomore record, Wicked Tales, released independently on May 5th, 2025, and this one had me scratching my head a little. The structure of the album feels split down the middle in my opinion. The first half is stacked with heavier tracks, classic heavy metal energy, guitar driven hard hitting, but then the second half slows things down significantly. It leans heavily into a mid-tempo territory, even bordering on balladry at times, and the tonal shift is jarring. Let's start with what works. Liz Fawcett's vocals are strong throughout. She's got great range and character, especially on tracks like To Neverland, with a standout cut with a solid chorus and sharp melodies. Then you got Outstretched Arms is another highlight, a heavy power ballad that actually sticks with the landing with some real emotional weight behind it. The opener, Undead Nightmare, is fast, punchy, and loaded with solos, though Buzz Belro's vocal contribution is, let's say, divisive. I wasn't a fan of his delivery, but the musicianship surrounding it definitely carries the track. Where things get a little messy is in the album's second half. You've got songs like Purpose, Slipping Away, The Curious Man, and the oddly epic Ain't Right, all of which slow the energy down considerably. Not bad songs on their own, but bunched together, they sap the fucking momentum off this album. Things Change brings back a bit of fire with its acoustic intro and ripping electric solo, but it's almost too little, too late. And then the closer, Forgotten Souls, ironically lives up to its name. It doesn't leave much of an impression in my opinion. Overall, Wicked Tales feels like two different albums spliced together. The front half shows promise, there are great solos, decent hooks, and strong vocal performances, but the back half loses its identity and drifts a bit too far from what the band does well. So, where does that leave us? I think Slizard have talent, and there's definitely something here, but the inconsistent track listing holds it back. I've been too nice fucking lately. I've been way too nice, so I'm being tougher this week. A final score of 50%. Check it out on Bandcamp and all major streaming services, and let me know if you hear what I hear. Next up, we head to Portugal, where a band called My Dementia have released their debut full-length, an album I honestly can't pronounce, but I'll put the title on the screen for you. It dropped on May 8th through Caverna Abysmal Records, and it's one of the most crushing and sorrowful albums I've come across in a while. Take a listen. From the very first track, this album dragged you under. It's slow, heavy, and unrelenting in its despair. There's a rawness to the production that feels intentional. Nothing is overly polished or pristine. It's primal, gritty, human. You can hear the cracks, the pain behind every scream, and it only deepens the impact. This isn't background music, this is the sound of something breaking inside of you. Musically, it fuses black metal, death doom, and moments of funeral doom, shifting between oppressive riffing and long stretches of suffocating atmosphere. Tracks like The Abyss throws you into chaos almost immediately. Frantic, distorted guitars swell until they collapse into gut-wrenching growls that feel like they've been ripped from somewhere far below the earth. Miguel Canero's vocal performance throughout this record is absolutely devastating. There are brief moments of clean singing, but they never offer relief. Instead, they make the sorrow feel sharper, more fucking real. The Eternal Wanderer and Gloom's Light slows things down to the full-on doom territory. These songs aren't just heavy, they ache. The melodies feel like they're grieving. The drums feel distant and ceremonial. The guitars don't just riff, they weep. And that's what separates this album from the pack. The emotion behind the weight. Then you get the two-part suite, Sin's Demise, which is arguably the peak of the entire record. Running close to 28 minutes, it's layered, intense, and deeply atmospheric. The vocals are monstrous, the guitars feel haunted. There's moments in part 2 where everything just clicks, the melodies, the tones, the pacing, and for a few minutes it feels like you're floating in darkness, watching the world rot around you. The most heartbreaking part of all this is learning that Miguel passed away last year. And knowing that, it changes how the album lands. You can hear the finality in his voice. This wasn't just a performance, it was more like a purge. There's a spirit in this album that you can't fake, and now it stands as a monument to someone who clearly poured everything into his art. This record is over an hour long and not a second of it feels wasted. It's not an easy listen, but it's not meant to be. It's painful, slow, emotional, and utterly absorbing. I'm coming back to it a lot more, not for comfort, but because it matters. This is what doom metal should do. It should leave you feeling like something in you that shifted. I'm scoring an 85% and I'm absolutely buying this physical copy. This is more than just a great debut, it's a final statement, and it's one I will not forget. Next up on Discovery is a band from Belarus called Victim Path, who just released their latest full-length Lost in Stellar Dust through Fetsna Def Records. Take a listen. It's a mid-tempo atmospheric record that leans into both black and doom metal aesthetics, though it never quite plants itself fully in either camp. That makes it quite interesting, but also a little confusing. Is it black metal? Is it doom? Or is it something in between, like black and death? Stylistically, there are moments of progressive metal, clean guitar, interludes, and flashes of aggression that hint at something heavier. But the album as a whole sits in this reflective, almost spacey grey area. The clean guitars are a real highlight, often shimmering beneath the surface while harsher tones come and go. The production is solid, raw, organic, not overly polished, and the musicianship is tight across the board. Where it stumbles for me is in the vocal department. At times they fit the mood perfectly, but other times they feel slightly forced or even disconnected from the atmosphere being built. The opener, Divided in Zero, starts things off well. There's an eerie ambience, some subtle melody work, and the guitar tone is nice and gritty. It sets the tone with a sense of quiet unease. Build of Lies follows it up with a shift into cleaner vocal territory and a surprisingly catchy hook, one of the more memorable tracks on the album. Even if the chorus feels a little repetitive after a few listens.
Nobody hides my knife with me.
Now the title track Lost in Stellar Dust brings in more progressive elements. There's some interesting vocal phrasing here, leaning more into that death metal growls, and the shifts in rhythm make it stand out. Edges of Insanity is a strong point, mixing tremolo picked blackened riffing with brighter, almost mournful melodies underneath. The mood is bleak but engaging, and while the vocals aren't perfect here either, they match the intensity. But the problem lies in the album's pacing and length at just over 30 minutes. Lost in Stellar Dust ends just as it feels like it's about to hit its stride. A couple more tracks could have helped flesh out its themes and emotional weight. As it stands, it's a solid listen with strong ideas, but it feels like a glimpse into something that could have been more fully realized. Overall, there's a lot to like here, like melodic ideas, the instrumental layering, and that floating atmosphere that really sells the album title. It's definitely worth checking out, but for me, it needed a bit more substance, a bit more push up the arse. I'm scoring it at 60%. Check it out now on Bandcamp and all streaming services, especially if you like your black metal a little more progressive. Next up on this episode of Discovery, we're heading to Greece, where we find Exilium Noctis, who just released their sophomore album, Pactum Diaboli, independently on May 9th. Take a listen. Now, one word to sum it up: fantastic. This is a seriously strong album that continues to prove Greece is on an absolute tear this year when it comes to black metal. Stylistically, Pactum Diaboli walks a tightrope between black and death metal and black metal, but this time around, I'd say they fully embraced their blackened side. Now, their debut leaned more into like that death metal, black and death metal territory, but this record feels colder, sharper, and far more fucking venomous. Now, the vocals by Thyragon are the highlights for me. Searing, layered, and dripping with malice. The way his blackened shrieks blend with his deeper raspy growls gives the album dynamic intensity, and it rarely lets up. Now, the production is tight and punchy with just enough rawness to retain that underground feel without muddying the instrumentation. And the melodies, they're excellent, evil, spiraling, and sometimes almost triumphant in their darkness. It's high octane, relentless, and surprisingly fun in that adrenaline rush kind of way that great black metal often is. Now, the album opens with, let me look at my notes, Adventus Tenebrum, a slow-building, ominous intro that sets the tone with a looming dread. From there, All Shall Burn wastes no time, blistering blast beats, wild leads, and unhinged vocals. The title track is a massive standout, featuring guest vocals from Henry Sattler of God the Throne. It blends searing black metal screams with deeper death vocals, and there's a killer section near the end where church-like organs emerge behind a wall of blast beats, hauntingly theatrical and absolutely crushing. Songs like For Babylon is another highlight. The vocal layering here reminds me a lot of Marduk, relentless and chaotic but always controlled. They got Dioram Cremata, introduces some clean vocals that felt a bit out of place to me, especially in contrast with the rest of the album's atmosphere. That said, the riffing is still strong, and the drumming is tight and technical. Now, you got God's Demise and Priests of Blasphemy. Holy shit, take the aggression to another level. Monstrous vocals, fast-paced riffing, and razor-sharp transitions. Devil's March is packed with swirling melodies that never lose momentum, and Rise of Serpent closes things out with a total firepower, a final burn that leaves no doubt about the band's intent. Overall, this album is a very strong release from front to back. It delivers powerful, atmospheric black metal with just enough death metal edge to keep things brutal and diverse. The vocals are a real standout, and the evil melodic sense running through the record is excellent. Excellent. If I had one critique, It's that a couple transitions between tracks could have been smoother, and the clean vocals in Dirum Cremator disrupted the otherwise cohesive tone. That said, it's a very minor gripe in the otherwise thrilling and hellish ride. I'm scoring this one at 80%. It's honestly, that number might go up by year's end. It's that strong. Check it out on Bandcamp and all streaming services, especially if you like your black metal, fast, furious, and wickedly melodic. And we welcome back to Discovery the Cosmic Bibbidi-Boo black metal force from Ukraine, Labyrinthus Stellarum, who just returned with their brand new album Rift in Reality, released on May 2nd through Northern Silence Productions. Take a listen. Last year we covered that previous record, Vortex of the Worlds, and I've got to be honest, I still play that album constantly. The melodies were unforgettable, the songwriting next level, so how does Rift in Reality compare? Well, it's different, but different in a very good way. All those swirling, infectious synth melodies are still here, the ones that crawl into your brain and stay there, but this time they push the boundaries incredibly high. There's more experimentation on here. Clean vocals woven into chaotic shrieks, pop sensibilities even clashing with cosmic fury, and even elemental core. Yes, I said that right. Elemental core thrown into the mix. This album is heavier, way heavier than the last, with breakdowns that wouldn't feel out of place on a deathcore record. And yet it never stops being black metal. Labyrinthus Stellarum have taken their cosmic vision and blown it wide open. Got songs like Voyages kicks things off with an absolutely addictive synth line. This melody is going to haunt your head for days. Alex Andronati's vocals are completely unhinged here, shrieking, snarling, and suddenly giving way to clean passages that feel oddly serene. Now the contrast hits hard, the guitar tone is razor sharp, the pacing relentless. Got songs like Ravenous Planet is just as heavy, dragging in some kind of a sonic black hole. The cleaner vocal layering on this track gives it a surreal, almost unsettling tone. Again, the blackened vocals dominate on this, but they're always flanked by something more celestial and more vulnerable. Then songs like Take Us Home slows things down a little. It's emotional, epic sounding, and drenched in synths. The song builds gradually, layering atmosphere over thunderous drums. It's one of the most cinematic tracks here, and the production really shines. Then you hit the self-titled track, Rift in Reality, and suddenly you're dancing, sort of. There's even a grunty rap-style new metal section thrown in, which somehow works thanks to the way it weaves in and out of the clean vocals and cosmic synths. It's poppy, it's chaotic, and then boom, you're slammed by a massive breakdown straight out of the deathcore playbook. It shouldn't work, but it does. And he got lost in the void, leans dreamier, soaring, airy vocals and glowing synth pads, but it does get repetitive, and the energy dips slightly here. That said, it sets the stage perfectly for Cosmic Plague, which hits like a freight train, dark, melodic, and absolutely relentless, with another brilliant synth line that refuses to leave your head. Then Liftoff is pure atmosphere, a gorgeous track with thunderous drums, layered vocals, and lush synths. Misha Andronati's guitar and keyboard work here is top notch, especially when the harsh vocals slice through the calm. And then the album closes with a fully electronic, percussion-like, instrumental, eerie, cosmic, and strangely beautiful Nihas, or something like that. Overall, Rift in Reality is another killer release from Labyrinthus Stellarum. The experimentation works, the songwriting is sharp, and they're taking bold risks that mostly pay off. Do I think it's as strong as Vortex of the Worlds? Possibly, personally no. That last album had a tied up melodic focus and a more emotional pull for me. Production was a lot rawer as well, but Rift in Reality is still a brilliant album, more aggressive, more daring, and full of memorable moments. And giving this an 85%, check it out on Bandcamp and all streaming platforms, especially if you like your black metal, cosmic, weird, and fearless. Next up in Discovery, we welcome back Sleep Token, who've just released their highly anticipated new album, Even in Arcadia, on May 9th through RCA Records. Take a listen. Now look, I know this one's going to be divisive. Some will debate whether it's even metal. Just like with Ghost, I don't fucking care. I don't care what genre box it fits in. What I care about is whether it moves me, and this album absolutely did. Now, I was hyped from the moment Emergence dropped. That track alone had me excited. It carried the emotional depth and sonic experimentation that reminded me of Take Me Back to Eden, which for me was the record that turned Sleep Token from a curiosity into a band I genuinely respected. When Even in Arcadia dropped, I dove in it immediately, no hesitation. Honestly, I wasn't disappointed. Now, is it as strong as Take Me Back to Eden? Maybe. Time will tell, but this album builds on everything that made that record so fucking compelling. Vessel's ethereal, soaring vocals, genre-defying song structures, and this deep emotional pull that Sleep Token have absolutely mastered. There's R&B, there's hip hop, there's alt rock, and then suddenly there's a full-blown black metal or gent infused breakdowns that hit like a freight train. Now the shifts are jarring, sure, but they work. It's controlled chaos. You've got songs like Look to Windward, opens the album and sets that unpredictable tone right away. It starts mellow, almost fragile, and then out of nowhere you're hit with blast beats, crushing guitars, and blackened shrieks from Vessel that sound straight out of a black metal record. You don't expect it, and that's the magic.
Will you hold this eclipse in?
The song Emergence still stands out with that seductive saxophone section, a sultry cinematic moment that you don't usually get on albums this emotionally heavy. It's sexy time. The self-titled track is another highlight with beautiful piano and violin passages that feel almost sacred before unfolding into something much darker. There's a soft stretch in the middle of the record past Self, Dangerous, which has those heavy guitar riffs, and Caramel lead more into that pop territory with catchy hooks, silky smooth vocals, and rich atmospheres. But the end of Caramel is batshit fucking crazy with blackened vocals, blast beats, and tremolo-picked riffs. These softer tracks might lose some metal fans, but they're vital for pacing and emotional contrast. And there's some heavy moments throughout most of these songs mixed with those pop elements. Then there's songs like Guest Domain, and this is the one that really brought me back to Take Me Back to Eden. It echoes Euclid, in my opinion, in its structure and tone, soft, ethereal, and heartbreaking. It's a spiritual sibling to Euclid, not just sonically, but emotionally. And then Infinite Baths brings back the weight. Its black gaze section is stunning, all tremolo picked guitars and howling vocals soaked in reverb. It's heavy, dramatic, and genuinely surprising. The outro is something. The outro is certainly something. Overall, I think Even in Arcadia is a bold, emotional, and at times genre-defying album. I used to not like this band, but something clicked with Take Me Back to Eden, and now I get it. There's real craft here, real vulnerability, real risk-taking. That said, let me put the critic hat on. There are some pacing issues, especially in the back half. A few tracks build too long without payoff, and that repeated soft build-up heavy explosion formula does get quite predictable. If you're not in the mood to be patient, the second half might test you. But even with those flaws, it's a solid record, heartfelt, beautifully produced, and daring in all the right ways. My final score, I'm being harsh, remember? 75%. Check it now on streaming platforms, especially if you're ready for an emotional trip that refuses to play by the rules. And now, our main event for this week's discovery is none other than one of my all-time favorite bands, the legendary Polish blackened death metal giants, Behemoth, and their 13th studio album, The Shit of God, released on May 9th through Nuclear Blast. I'll be real with you, my expectations weren't high after Opus Contra Natrum, which wasn't bad, but definitely felt like a step down in terms of songwriting and impact. I was fully prepared for another middle of the road release, but damn, I was completely wrong. The Shit of God is their best album, dare I say, since The Satanists, no question. This album feels like Behemoth rising out of the flames with a renewed sense of purpose. It's ferocious, it's theatrical, and most importantly, it's well focused. Now, the band have found a way to merge the grand, ritualistic scope of their later material with the savage edge of the early albums like Demigod and Zoskia Cultus. The result, a blackened death metal record that feels both modern and ancient, a chaotic sermon delivered by the unholy. Now, Nurgle sounds utterly possessed on this record. His vocals are demonic, sharp, and commanding. His blackened snarls feel more venomous than they have in years, and the layering of his vocals gives many tracks that ritualistic choral feel, like he's summoning something from beyond. The guitar tone is thick and punishing. The riffs are tight, memorable, and laced with sinister melodies. Inferno is once again a machine behind the kit. His drumming is precise, violent, dynamic, especially in the album's more epic moments. Now, the album opens with the song The Shadow Elite. And what a fucking opener. The drums hit like cannon blasts, there's a sinister groove running beneath the tremolo-picked guitars, and the chorus is surprisingly melodic for Behemoth. It's epic, theatrical, and still blistering fucking heavy, the perfect way to set the tone. Then we launch into Sowing Salt, which is pure chaos. Now, Nurgle's vocals are especially manic on this track. The guitar riffs are vicious and direct, but there's still melody buried underneath. Inferno's blast beats are relentless here, and the song hits like a fucking storm. The transitions are silky smooth, but violent, like being shoved from one ritual into another. Then, the title track. Eat my flesh, drink my blood, we are the shit of God, is one of the biggest surprises. Shit of God. It has an almost anthemic chorus, the kind that worms its way into your head and stays there. It's heavy, mid-tempo, and structured in a way that balances accessibility with aggression. Now, the solo on this track is genuinely killer. This is easily one of the best tracks on the album. You've got songs like Luciferium, which brings a more thrashy element into the fold, especially that solo with fast-paced riffing and intensity that feels like it could have come off Evangelion. It's furious but controlled, the vocal phrasing here is particularly sharp, and the atmosphere feels thick and very ritualistic. Then there's To Drown the Sun in Wine, and this is where the album stretches out, in my opinion. Like, it is a short song, but it's darker, more drawn out, almost doom-affected in some sections, especially the ending. There's a haunting atmosphere throughout, and it leans more into that despair than outright aggression. This song is pretty fucking aggressive though. It's a great example of how Behemoth are using space and tension to elevate the sound. Then got Nomen Barbarum is another standout. The opening chants and layered vocals feel so ominous, but then it's all gets ripped open by blast beats and Nurgle's feral snarls. The riffing here is fantastic, the perfect mix of groove and blackened chaos. There's a real sense of theatrics in the song without ever feeling overblown. And then we arrive at O Venus Come, one of the most atmospheric tracks on the record, immediately gave me flashbacks to O Father, O Satan, O Son from The Satanist. It's slow, burning, mystical, and absolutely drenched in dread, and it's fucking heavy. There's a beautiful push and pull between calm and chaos here. The way the song swells, falls, and then explodes into such violence is really masterful, and that ending with the choir accompanied with Nurgle's demonic voice, absolutely fucking amazing. Now finally the album closes with Olga, the Dread Vulture, which is arguably in my opinion, one of Behemoth's strongest closes to date in the modern Behemoth sound. It's massive, layered, unrelenting, emotionally heavy. Nurgle's performance here is particularly grim and compelling, and the final minutes of the song hit like a funeral dirge for humanity. It ends the record on a devastating note, dark, cathartic, and full of energy. So where does the shit of God sit for me? Honestly, it's a brilliant return to form. It doesn't surpass the Satanist, but it gets close. The songwriting is much more cohesive than on Opus Contra Natrum, and the band sounds energized, like they've remembered exactly what made this sound so powerful in the first place. It's a fucking heavy album. It's emotional. It feels intentional. Nothing here feels phoned in. That said, it's not flawless. Some moments, like parts of To Drown the Sun in Wine, feel a little drawn out, but I do love the building of the climax. A few tracks, while strong, could have benefited from a more concise structure. While I love the theatrics, I know it won't be for everyone. Some fans may still prefer the rawer, more violent Behemoth from like Zoskia, Occultus, Apostasy, Demigod, but for me, this blend of atmosphere, precision, and fury is exactly what I want in modern Behemoth. This is their best album since The Satanist. I'm scoring The Shit of God a solid 80%. It's not quite in the top tier yet, but I have a strong feeling this one's going to grow on me. It's an album that rewards repeated listens. Now the songwriting is sharp, the performances are fucking tight, and Nurgle sounds the best he's sounded in years. Behemoth are back, dark, defiant, and really dangerous. Check out The Shit of God now on all streaming platforms. Wow. Absolutely fantastic album.
If I am God, everyone is.
So yeah, that's it for Discovery for this week. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Let me know in the comments below your favorite discoveries. Let me know what you thought about Behemoth's brand new album, and even let me know what you thought of Sleep Tokens as well, or any other albums on this list. It's been fun, and I will see you in the next one.